Hello everybody. On today's show we'll be talking to our local official who's responsible for keeping our wildlife and wooded areas safe. Stay tuned to protecting our community. Hello and welcome to Protect Our Community. I'm your host, Bryan Coyle. Our goal is to improve the quality of living by giving you the knowledge of agencies and organizations that are here to help you. On today's show, we have the Pennsylvania Game Commission Game Warden Jerry Czech, who will discuss his duties on the job. I want to warn the viewers that some of the images you will about to see are disturbing to some. Jerry, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Brian.
So Jerry, tell us about the Pennsylvania Game Warden Commission.
The Pennsylvania Game Commission was established in 1895 to protect market hunting, when people would go out and hunt and fish and take whatever they wanted, they needed for food. And then basically after a while, when people were taking too many animals and some of our wildlife was disappearing, the Game Commission was established to put seasons and bag limits and limitations on what people could do instead of just taking things for profit or making money.
So, how long have you been with the Game Commission?
I've been a game warden for 20 years now.
And what got you started into that?
Well, when I was a kid, I kind of liked being in the outdoors, so I would, grew up in Northeast Philadelphia, and I used to ride my bike and go to Pennypack Park a lot. Mm-hmm. So my father and grandfather on my father's side liked to hunt and fish, so I was introduced to hunting and fishing through them. And my grandfather on my mother's side, he liked to watch birds. He was an ornithologist, so he liked to go around and look for birds and watch different birds and take trips. So I got the best of both worlds. One side of the family was hunters and fishermen, and the other one liked to watch wildlife.
Awesome. So what kind of requirements does one need to become a game warden?
You have to be a resident of Pennsylvania, be 21 years of age. You have to either have, we have a new requirement, this class that we're going to be recruiting for, is the first time we had a requirement of 60 college credits. Okay. So you have to have 60 college credits, you have to have military, 60 college credits or military, okay. Or be one of our deputies, which is basically a part-time position with the agency, and if you're a deputy, you need to be 2 years of service with at least 400 hours of work time. They're the requirements.
So what are the responsibilities of a game warden?
Basically, we protect the Pennsylvania's 465 species of wildlife. A lot of our job is on the big game animals, which is deer, turkey, bear, and elk in Pennsylvania. So they're the majority of our focus, but we do protect all the other birds and mammals that inhabit our woodlands or parks around here. We enforce the laws, Title 34, which is the Game and Wildlife Code. We check the hunters to make sure that they're using the proper equipment, they're using the proper traps, and they're not taking too much wildlife or over the limit. We also do education programs to schools and nursing homes, senior centers, local environmental centers, whoever might ask for a program about bears, coyotes, whatever the topic is. We're responsible for maintaining our hunter-trapper education program, which is all first-time hunters in Pennsylvania need to take a safety course. Okay. It's an 8-hour class taught by volunteer hunter ed instructors and game wardens, and it teaches the people how to properly identify wildlife, properly use firearms, safe firearm handling, and some of the laws and regulations about hunting so that they know what they're doing when they get out there.
All right, so I understand you have you're in a hiring process right now, and you're looking for good applicants to go into your academy, and we have some pictures of your academy right now. If we could look at the monitor, and can you explain What goes on when
Yeah,
someone goes to the police academy or
Sure.
the
It's called the Ross
Ranger?
Leffler School of Conservation.
Okay.
And that's at our Harrisburg headquarters in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And cadets go there. They're responsible for being there it's 11 months long, 52 weeks. They learn first aid, CPR. They go through the physical training, do some volunteer. They're hunter ed instructors. They got to be certified in that. That's wildlife necropsy. It's an autopsy on wildlife. That particular slide there, they're learning how to trap turkeys when we do have to do research. Telemetry is when we radio collar bears or elk or deer, and we need to find them again in the wild. Mist netting is some nets that are put up to ban birds. If we're doing some studies, or we help our biologists when they would they put the birds on bans on the birds, so that we have to catch them in the nets, and that safely catches them. Different things. Sometimes trees come down in certain areas, and we learn some safety about tools and chainsaws.
So this is all the equipment you have to use out in the field.
Possibly, yeah. So when we're out on game lands, or when we're out in remote areas, if a tree comes down, you need to get the chainsaw out and open up the trail. I don't have that much of a problem here in Philadelphia with that, but in other areas, wardens patrol thousands of acres of what are called state game lands. It's basically areas that are owned by the Game Commission and open to public hunting. Some of those are dirt roads or trails that basically are patrolled by our wardens. And if you're driving back, you're 4 or 5 miles back a dirt road, tree comes down, you need to open up a path.
Right.
I'm sorry. Capturing and tagging elk calves. When you do research to do that, we have to, the guys are out learning, guys and girls are out learning to do that. Black bears, I do a little bit of that. I don't do very much, but other wardens in areas, they are responsible for trapping and tagging black bears, removing them for nuisance problems, or if they're getting the trash cans.
Now, with the black bears, we've been having a few issues locally here around Philadelphia with black bears wandering into this area, correct?
Correct. In the last 2 or 3 years, we've probably had 3 or 4 bears actually come into Philadelphia County, which in my 20-year career, that's only happened a very few times. Basically, in the springtime, when the young bears, they're basically after about a year old, the mother basically kicks them out, says, hey, go find your own area. And so the young males or females, they're looking for areas to have their own life. And what happens is they start to come down from Bucks County or Upper Montgomery County, and there's a lot of wooded areas that they can get into, and they end up coming down close to the city, and we get called out by whoever, residents or the local police department that see them, and we'll try to safely catch them either by tranquilizing them or setting a trap out, and we'll see some signs. And stuff.
What's your advice to the community out there when they do see a bear?
When they do see a bear, call the local police and the Game Commission right away if it's in the metro areas here, because we're going to try to get it and remove it to a safe location. And just observe it. Don't mess around with it. And if you report it, let us know. We'll come out and try to take care of it. A lot of times the public can be a problem because they want to come out, they want to see it, they want to photograph it, and it draws a large crowd. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get that bear up a tree, basically. Once it goes up the tree, then we'll be able to safely catch it. And sometimes it gets a little crazy with the media and the police helicopters, the news helicopters, but we'll see some of that stuff.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we'll be back with the Pennsylvania Game Commission.
Whether it's the sound of an eagle's call or the lessons learned passing down a tradition, that's the sound of the Pennsylvania Game Commission, working for people and wildlife in the Commonwealth. We are game wardens who protect wildlife. We are biologists who research and manage state's wild birds and mammals. We are the habitat specialists that work on our 1.5 million acres of state game lands to provide places for wildlife to thrive and people to enjoy. We are working for our wildlife's future and the legacy we leave our children. Behind the beauty of the Commonwealth is the Pennsylvania Game Commission. For more information, go to pgc.pa.gov.
Oftentimes, it's simply overlooked how good the hunting truly is in Pennsylvania. Unmatched whitetail traditions, thriving turkey populations, some of the best Canada goose hunting in the Atlantic Flyway, over 200,000 pheasants stocked statewide yearly, world-class elk hunting, along with some of the largest black bear in the world, managing habitat, creating opportunities, conserving our future. The Pennsylvania Game Commission.
Welcome back to Protect Our Community. I've been talking with Game Warden Jerry Czech about the Pennsylvania Game Commission. So Jerry, we still have some pictures here about the recruiting aspect.
Yes, our officers spend 52 weeks a year there. We learn how people trap and how to set traps when we have to remove nuisance animals, and when we're looking for those violations out in the forest. We learn how to look for them and set the traps. Our officers are often around streams and lakes, so we learn about water rescue and safety, so that if someone falls in the water, we can assist them with getting out of the water and rescuing them. And so we learn about that. Of course, people ice fish or get on the ice in different lakes and streams around the Commonwealth, and our officers are trained in water rescue and ice safety.
Okay.
And then defensive tactics and control tactics are just like any police officer that has to make an arrest. Some people become uncooperative, and we need to learn all that. And that's, of course, when you get OC sprayed. During training, we all get sprayed, so we know what it feels like in case someone gets our spray and happens to maybe use it on us. We do a lot of firearms training. We are issued Glocks, handguns. We have ARs, shotguns, and 22s that are issued to us for animal control and for our law enforcement duties. We all have four-wheel drive vehicles and ATVs that we need to learn how to ride, and emergency vehicle like police operations of those vehicles to safely operate them.
So I'm just curious, how long is that course with the driving course?
3 days.
3 days.
3 days.
And that's all combined with the vehicles as well as the ATVs?
Woodland tracking, we all learn a little bit of that. We do have a special team of trackers, wildlife conservation, or excuse me, game wardens, we're called now. They are specialized in tracking humans. And we did, when Eric Freen was on the loose, that he had shot true troopers a year or two ago in Pennsylvania, our tracking team responded to that. They went on extensive training, and they assisted the state police in tracking him through the woods. He was on the loose for approximately a month up in the Poconos.
Wow, that's outstanding training there.
We get a day or two of it in the academy, but we have a woodland tracking team, sort of like your SWAT, the police SWAT teams. These guys are called for those special when people are lost, or if somebody needs to be tracked through the woods.
Okay.
Crime scene processing, just like any police officer would do a crime scene, we have places where animals are poached and evidence is in the woods. We do have 3 canines that we use, and those dogs aren't trained on drugs or bombs. They're trained on how to gunpowder and residue, and to find shells, arrows, and wildlife. We are authorized to enforce the DUI violations, so we learn about standard field sobriety testing. Of course, vehicle stops, because as any law enforcement officer would do, is we're stopping hunters and things like that. So,
now I have a question about the DUI stuff. Do you find a lot of hunters are out there drinking and shooting their guns?
Yes, we do come across that. I've actually come across that in Delaware County several times, where people were out, and a lot of times it happens during the early dove season. Okay. When it's still warm out, people go out, and it's September, early October. One stop in Delaware County happened to be the Newtown police, who were called to an area where somebody was shooting at night, and they arrived, and there was 2 gentlemen, 2 in a vehicle out hunting foxes, and they were
At
high on
night?
marijuana. Yes, you can hunt foxes at night.
Okay.
Yes, you can hunt foxes at night. So they were legal in hunting the foxes, and they had hunting licenses, but they were just smoking marijuana while they were doing it. So our code it's called HUI, hunting under the influence.
Okay.
Similar to DUI, 0.08. And if you're over the limit, either drinking or on any controlled substance, you can be charged with hunting under the influence.
Oh, I clearly see that. That's very dangerous. We got field assignments.
Field assignments is when the officers, after several months in the academy, when the hunting season begins, they go out and work with other officers for several weeks at a time. And what they do is for 3 months. So they'll go out and they'll work the deer season, the big game seasons, whitetail deer season, bear season, and get experience actually in the field. And then at the end of the day, which Saturday the 23rd of February, we just graduated our 31st class of wardens just this past Saturday. So they're all going to be joining us in the field this week, and we're recruiting currently for the 32nd class of game wardens.
Okay.
And that application process is open right now. You can check our website and apply if you'd like.
Now, is it required for them to live there while they're going through the academy?
Oh, yes, our academy is a resident academy. It's 52 weeks long, so you live there in Harrisburg, Monday through Friday.
And do they have weekends off that they could go back home if they wish
Most of
to?
the weekends they do have off, except when they're on field assignments. That's the peak hunting seasons, so they might not have a weekend off. It might be a day or two during the week. But there are peak hunting seasons. And even our wardens during the peak hunting seasons in late November, December, we work all kinds of hours because there's very few of us, and trying to be out there on patrol, one day can run into the next.
Okay. So now, while you're in the academy, you get paid, correct?
Yes, you get paid. You live there. There's bunks upstairs. There's 3 meals a day in our cafeteria, and you wake up at 5 in the morning to do physical training. You do classroom basically from 8 to 4 or 5 o'clock at night, and then you're taking care of your uniforms and other various things. It's a paramilitary type training where it's like sort of like a boot camp.
Oh. Sounds interesting. We now know we have some other pictures here that I'd like to bring up. So tell us about this.
Well, some people, go out and hunt and they do things perfectly legal. They call them hunters, and I try to be very careful when a lot of people will say the hunters did this, hunters did that. Well, if they're hunting, that's a legal activity. Mm-hmm. If you are poaching, then that you should be called a poacher because that is illegal to do. Okay. So if somebody goes out and shoots a deer at night or out of a truck or cheats, there's a poacher. And that particular deer that you saw there was a deer that was shot just outside of Philadelphia in Montgomery County, and it scored more than 115 on the Boone and Crockett scale. So the antlers on that particular deer ended up being a $5,000 minimum charge because that's a trophy class buck. Okay. And what happened, that person had shot the deer. There was some information on Facebook. We did an investigation, and he had shot the deer and tagged it with his father's tag. So that's illegal. You have to use your own hunting license to do things. This particular picture is actually in Philadelphia, and that's a snare. Snaring is legal to do for foxes and coyotes and certain fur bearers. This particular trap is an illegal set because when you set them, they can't get entangled into any trees or anything like that, because then they can get ensnared and they could kill themselves and hurt themselves very badly. And you see that was posted right on a tree. Yes. So that was an illegal set in Philadelphia. This particular scene here is where I was on patrol one day, and it was Tacony Park. Somebody was called that they were hunting with a rifle, and the police made a stop, and I was called over because it was a hunting violation or possible hunting violation, and that was in the back of the vehicle. You see several rifles and a fishing rod in the back of that vehicle, and that was right here in Philadelphia.
Question that comes up a lot: can people hunt in the city park?
People cannot hunt in the city-owned or controlled property. The city has an ordinance that says no hunting on city-owned or controlled property. Hunting is legal in Philadelphia County with a bow and arrow for white-tailed deer. Okay. And this here particular person, that's a girl, and she's a teenager, and she was that's a successful hunter in Pennsylvania. She got that deer. That particular deer was in Tioga County, but this gentleman, that's a successful turkey hunter that was proud of his turkey, and that was shot actually in Delaware County. So we have turkeys in Philadelphia as well. This young gentleman, we took some pictures, and it happens to be actually my son, and we were fishing in the Pennypack Creek. So that's a trout that he caught. That is my daughter with a trout that was caught in the Wissahickon.
Wow.
And that's another picture of a young gentleman, my other son, and he was another shot of Pennypack Creek. That particular shot is a striped bass, and that was in the Delaware River right by the Tacony Bridge. So a striped bass, which is a game fish that the Fish and Boat Commission is responsible for, but that's some biology there, electrofishing they're doing. And that's quite a fish for the Delaware River, and people don't realize that there are fish like that right here in Philadelphia.
Wow. I did not know that.
This is another Pennypack Park violation. You see the police in the background. We were on patrol, and that is a net that's laying there that a person was using. Like after they stock the trout in the stream, they gather. There's 30, 40 fish in a particular area, and you're supposed to use a fishing rod and hooks and bait to catch fish. That's what you're legally supposed to do. And that particular gentleman was using that net to catch multiple fish at a time, and we caught him by Roosevelt Boulevard. This is a picture of, a lot of times in the springtime, a lot of wildlife is born, and that's a closer view and an even closer view of a fawn. Female deer will have fawns in early May, late May, and basically when they have a fawn, the fawn is born with those white spots to kind of, it makes it look like it's camouflage. They're born with no scent, camouflage, and the white spots on it are supposed to be the sunlight coming through the leaves of the forest, so that it's camouflaged along the forest floor. And a lot of people will think that the mothers abandoned the fawns. The mothers still have to go out in the forest and eat and drink and get exercise. So they'll leave that fawn, which can hardly walk, and they'll come back twice a day to feed it. And they'll communicate like lambs by baying and calling each other. And they'll come back, and a lot of people they need to leave them alone and just observe them. If they're still there in 24 hours, they can give us a call. This particular picture is a great horned owl, and that was caught in a soccer net up in Parkwood. That is a picture from Pennypack Park with some owls, great horned owls, that are in their nest there. You can see 3 of them. Working together with other agencies, we work with the state police, local police. This is the Philadelphia Fire Department. A gentleman was in his office, and he saw something fall out of the sky. And then when he looked over, he saw a bald eagle come down and land just where he saw something fall out of the sky. And when he looked, he got his binoculars, and it was a bald eagle on the roof of the building. So I was called to that location, went there, and I couldn't get on the roof, so I called the fire department, and they went up and recovered the bald eagle. Now that bald eagle is very important to recover to see what happened to it, and we need to get it to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to get to the National Eagle Repository for Native Americans to get the claws, the talons from it, or the feathers if needed, and find out the cause of death. That would be helpful. That is a black bear that was in the Wissahickon. That is a black bear that was up in Ben Salem. This particular shot is of a trap, and we put donuts in there, so we don't always eat the donuts. We usually use them for bear trapping. That's the trap set, and there's the bear in the trap. That's another bear that was caught in Delaware County. We're just outside of Philadelphia. That bear was caught right in Somerton, Philadelphia.
And all these bears are brought back to the wildlife in the wood.
Correct. Those bears are captured. They're put into that. Well, what they do is hopefully they'll go into the trap after we bait it. If they're staying in a particular area. And once they're in that trap, then we hook that to a vehicle, and that vehicle, then we process the bear, which is weigh it, measure it, put ear tags in it, little tags like earrings, and they have numbers on them. And then we drive it, if it's in Philadelphia, we take it an hour or 2 north of here to release it to more suitable habitat. That particular coyotes are in Philadelphia. They've been in Philadelphia for years. That is a roadkill. Those 2 both were roadkills. You see one of our officers have one. That picture there was taken on a trail camera in Cheltenham Township, just outside of Philadelphia. That's another one you can see there eating a carcass, a deer carcass, and that's another roadkill. That last coyote was hit in Roxborough.
Okay.
So they are around. People will see them. There's no need to be afraid of them. They're around. They've been around for years, and we haven't had anybody attacked by them. They will decimate a deer carcass, roadkill carcass, or a dead deer. That particular deer there, they're hit by cars in Philadelphia, which I deal with a lot, and that particular one was stuck on a fence. So some of the fences catch the deer.
Right. So I would like to dedicate and remember today's show in honor of Conservation Officer David Gore, who was killed on November 11, 2010 during a gun battle with a poacher. Jerry, can you explain about what happened?
Yeah, on Veterans Day, November 11th, 2010, David Grove was out on patrol in Adams County, Pennsylvania, right near Gettysburg battlefields. And two gentlemen were out and they had poached a deer. And when he made a vehicle stop on that vehicle after they had poached a deer, the two gentlemen were in the vehicle. He made a car stop and a gun battle ensued, and our officer David Grove was killed. They did catch the guy a day or two later. The local police were on scene within 2 minutes and 38 seconds. Even in an area like that, they were able to track the guy down with the state police, and he was caught, and he's on death row now.
Shame, just for a deer.
That was all over a deer. He was a convicted felon that didn't want to go back to jail because he was in possession of a firearm.
Well, Jerry, thank you so much. If you're interested in becoming a conservation officer or want to check out the laws or programs that the Game Commission has to offer, please check out their website at pgc.pa.gov. To report wildlife violations, call 1-888-PGC-8001. I would like to thank our guest, Game Warden Jerry Czech, for joining us today, and the viewers for tuning in and being part of the solution. So until next time, protecting our community is everyone's business. Keep those eyes and ears open.
Well, that's good.